The scent of sandalwood clung to the air, faint but unmistakable, even over the dust and the lingering tang of gunpowder. Jedediah Stone knelt beside the fresh-turned earth in Elias Thorne's garden, his aching bones protesting with every movement. The scent hadn't been there before, not when he's investigated the scene the day after Blackwood's death. It felt deliberate, a mocking signature left by the unseen hand that ended Silas Blackwood's life. Ilara's arm, though stabilized by dark hemlock's splint, throbbed with a dull ache as she watched from the porch of Thorne's sprawling estate. She hadn't been able to sleep properly since the ambush, the screams of the passengers echoing in her nightmares. Thorne had insisted she rest, offering her a quiet room and palatable meals, a stark contrast to the squalor she's witnessed in Redemption. "Find anything?" Thorne's voice was calm, almost detached, as he emerged from the shadows of the house. He wore a simple linen shirt and trousers, a picture of understated wealth. Jed looked up, the lines etched deeper on his face from days of relentless pursuit. The soil's been disturbed recently. Freshly turned, he pointed to a small patch near the rose bushes, almost hidden from view. "Sandalwood. You use it, Thorne." Thorne paused, his eyes, the same shade of grey as a stormy sky, narrowed slightly. "I appreciate fine scents, Marshal, but sandalwood is not something I use liberally. A shaving soap perhaps months ago." Jed didn't believe him. Not completely. The man was too careful, his composure too perfect. He was a predator cloaked in the guise of a respectable citizen. "Blackwood was killed here," Jed said, stating the obvious. "You found him. Why didn't you report it sooner?" "I was preoccupied," Thorne replied, his voice carefully controlled. "I assumed he's gone off on one of his drunken rampages. I didn't want the attention." Jed snorted. "Attention. Silas Blackwood was a wanted man. Dead or alive, he's a problem for the territory." He rose to his feet, the dust swirling around his worn boots. He scanned the garden again. It was an oasis of tranquility in the harsh Arizona landscape, manicured lawns, vibrant flower beds, ancient fruit trees heavy with ripening fruit. Yet, beneath the veneer of respectability lay a darkness as deep as the canyons that carved the surrounding hills. "He argued with you, didn't he?" Jed asked, his gaze fixed on Thorne. Thorne flinched, a subtle twitch of his jaw. "We had disagreements. Silas could be difficult." "About what?" "Business ventures. He wanted to expand. I wasn't comfortable with his methods." Jed didn't buy it. Thorne's wealth hadn't come from honest mercantile practices. He suspected a deeper connection, a shared history of shady dealings and unspoken agreements. Ilara gasped, clutching her arm. "Marshal," she whispered, pointing to a small, ornate box, lying half-hidden beneath a sprawling honeysuckle vine. "What's that?" Jed followed her gaze. It was a sandalwood box, intricately carved with scenes of desert wildlife. The same scent emanated from it, stronger now. He picked it up, examining it closely. It was empty, but the lining still bore traces of a dark powder. "Gunpowder," he muttered, recognizing the faint residue. He used sandalwood as a cover scent. He turned back to Thorne, his eyes narrowed. "You knew he used sandalwood. You knew he was going to be here." Thorne's composure finally cracked. A flicker of anger crossed his face, quickly masked by a cold, calculating expression. "You're mistaken, Marshal." "Am I? Or are you protecting someone, Thorne? Someone who wanted Silas Blackwood dead?" Suddenly, a shot rang out. Jed ducked behind a rose bush, the bullet whistling past his ear. He returned fire, but the shooter was already disappearing into the thicket of trees that bordered the garden. "Get Ilara inside," he yelled before giving chase. He followed the trail of broken branches and trampled leaves, deeper into the woods. The scent of sandalwood grew stronger, mingling with the earthy smell of damp soil and decaying leaves. He burst into a small clearing, finding himself face to face with a figure shrouded in shadow. It was a man in a wide-brimmed hat, his face obscured by the darkness. "Who are you?" Jed demanded, his hand hovering near his holster. The man didn't answer, merely raised his gun and fired again. Jed dived for cover, narrowly avoiding the bullet. He returned fire, but the man was too quick, disappearing into the trees once more. He cursed under his breath, realizing that he's been played. The man in the hat wasn't just a shooter, he was a distraction, a pawn in a larger game. He returned to the garden, finding Ilara being comforted by Thorne. The doctor was tending to a superficial wound on her arm. "He's gone," Jed said, his voice grim. "He got away." "Who was he?" Ilara asked, her voice trembling. "I don't know," Jed replied. "But he's connected to Thorne. They're both hiding something." He turned to Thorne, his eyes blazing with suspicion. "You knew he was coming. You let him in." Thorne remained silent, his face a mask of innocence. "You're under arrest," Elias Thorne, Jed declared, placing a hand on his shoulder. As he moved to cuff Thorne, a realization dawned on him. Something wasn't right. The sandalwood wasn't a scent for covering up gunpowder. It was masking another smell, the sickly sweet aroma of decay. He glanced at the ground, noticing a patch of disturbed earth hidden beneath a pile of fallen leaves. He knelt down, brushing the leaves aside. Beneath the soil lay a small, wooden chest. He opened it, revealing a collection of faded photographs and yellowed letters. The photographs were of Silas and Elias Thorne as young men, grinning and carefree. The letters were filled with tender declarations of brotherly affection, but one photograph stood out. It was a portrait of a woman, her face obscured by a dark veil. On the back of the photograph was a single, handwritten word, "Mother." The pieces began to fall into place. Silas and Elias Thorne hadn't just been brothers. They'd been raised together, bound by a shared past and a secret. "You killed your own brother," Jed said, his voice filled with disbelief. Thorne didn't deny it. He simply closed his eyes, a single tear tracing a path down his withered cheek. "He was going to expose us," Thorne whispered. "He was going to tell the world about our dealings." Suddenly, a shadow fell over them. Jed turned to see the man in the hat standing at the edge of the garden, a faint smile playing on his lips. "You've uncovered a lot, Marshal," the man said, his voice smooth and menacing. "But you still don't know the whole story." He raised his hand, revealing a silver ring on his finger. It was engraved with a familiar crest, the same crest that appeared on the Thorne family seal. "I've been watching you, Marshal," the man continued, "and I've decided that you're a threat." He pointed his gun at Jed. "It's time to make things permanent.